It's, it's the 14th of April 2020, 4:33 a.m. 34. I'm sitting in my room, my library, though it's not very clear right now at home, because I have books in my living room too, huge piles of books all around me. I call them my fortress. um, I have not been fortunate enough to avoid the disastrous attacks. Nonetheless, probably because the authors have gone to the other side too. Some of them, for sure. I am Agnieszka Rojek, Agnieszka Justitia Defensa Honestiam, and I'm mentioning it just in case the recording went elsewhere again. The daughter of Barbara and Bronisław, born in Krakow on the 27th of September 1974. And this is an update. This is an update after the Easter time. At this time, I really made my confession. I recorded it. I went through the procedure on my own. Well, perhaps with some support, mutual support from the ministers connected to me. However, not the traditional way. I have sent it to some of the centers of religious practice and religious service in Krakow and outside. I have received no reply, which has become a standard. I believe this is very, very symptomatic on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's very incorrect. Of course, now it's very, very late, so it's and isolation, right? But there was time to act. There was really time to act, and we have arrived at a point where certain things have become so clear. I find myself at this point totally devastated, of course, not only physically but also in other terms. However, very strong spiritually due to all the work I have been doing since 2001, I believe. This is when I became aware of the need for saving the world. I remember my uncle said at the time, "Save yourself," and it meant absolutely nothing to me. I was shocked. Why should I be saving myself? Why should I be in any danger? So the only thing that came to my mind was me actually keeping myself strong, spiritually strong, moral, etc. For my own life. I sensed no danger of anyone trying to get rid of me. And even the problems I had in the wake of my father's death in February 2001 did not seem to me to be an attack, actually, which might have been clear to my uncle already at the time, but he didn't mention anything of the kind. He just said, save yourself. And that was totally, totally out of my reality. It's been a long travel and a shocking one since then I went to St. Hill in the United Kingdom to do my volunteer minister course because Scientology helped me to overcome the nervous breakdown after my father's death in 2001. I completed my studies then. I wrote my MA thesis on Shakespeare, on life is a war as a metaphor defining the world of Othello, which was a departure from the original idea of creating a program for teaching literature that would develop emotional intelligence by recognizing different realities and learning tolerance and understanding through the recognition. The idea of tolerance was different. Now it is political, actually. So today I'm probably on the side of anti-tolerance, as I called it somewhere, which means rejecting the superimposition of accepting what's unacceptable. Still at the time, it was a different world, a different awareness of things that can be, that might happen, etc. Even if the 11th of September shock should have been a shock enough to recognize the new times. I did not complete my volunteer minister course, so I don't really have any proper certificate from the Church of Scientology. I was recruited for the Sea Org crew separation, so I signed the promise, and I went on my training, which I completed, and I became a Sea Org member, but then I was dismissed. When I was being dismissed, I had no idea that I was being dismissed, and it seems that there was more to it than the simple dismissal, although it's unclear because the document I got then specified the conditions of my return. So I was to do some training up to upper indoctrination, I believe, to return to the Sea Org, should I have the will. The document has disappeared from my flat, and it has been substituted with another one, replaced with another one, of a different content. Well, what can I say? A lot of things unimaginable have been happening since 2016 specifically, but I believe they must have been happening earlier too. I was so busy working that I did not notice things disappearing from my flat and things appearing in my flat. Now a lot of things surface. I spent the time mostly in the role of the teacher, I say the time to capture the years from 2001 and then this year of 2003. I arrived for the first time in 2002, February 2002, spent 3 months doing the volunteer-minister course, and then came back to Poland. Started preparing from coming back to England, and I went there in December 2002 again. And before I went to the course, they routed me to the EPF, which is the training preparing for the CEO. After a few months, including a surgeon in Budapest, in OTL Budapest, I came back to Poland. And when I was coming back to Poland, I was pretty certain I was coming back to St. Hill. So it was a shock when I received the document saying I was dismissed. And then I resumed teaching. I started teaching as a university student during the 5th year, which made me repeat the 5th year because I was focusing on my pupils. So my MA thesis was aside, so to say, and I did not really pay any attention to it throughout the year. And then in 2003 I resumed teaching, and I believe I was the teacher. I had a lot of experience because I was changing the place of working each year, and it creates a variety of pupils, people from all walks of life, perhaps not all, but many walks of life, and different age groups. Of course, different intelligence level, abilities, attitudes, and so on, accompanying it too. Different areas of study, including English for special purposes. And in 2008 it broke down. I decided that enough was enough, and I wanted to go for finance, but did not succeed in it. So I ended up working as for the Veronese Gallery in the outlet in Kazimierz, which is significant enough. Kazimierz is a Jewish district or quarter, whichever you want to call it, near Krakow, now in Krakow. It's famous for the movie, The Schindler's List. I was a secondary school pupil when the film, when they were taking shot, they were working on the film here in Krakow, so it was very close to my school. I don't know, you just go down the street, turn right towards the synagogue, and in front of the synagogue, in the square, there were all the people working on the film. Um, I remember we were a bit angry because um, we could not go to the cafe, to the Jewish cafe where we used to go during our breaks. There were too many people there, and that's the recollection. So overall, the signals have been coming, but the awareness does not accept it. And I believe this might be what has happened politically, apart from the office corruption in some cases. I believe quite many were quite unaware of the historical process that started perhaps in the 19th century with a paradox. And some imply that this kind of genocide, would it still be a genocide? Specieside was taking place in the Romantic period too. I don't know. But whatever has been earlier, by now we obviously know that we are dealing with the continuation of the process started as fascism, Hitlerism in Germany, Stalinism in Russia, and Maoism in China. Generally, this is a communist movement in China and Russia. Obviously, the case of Hitlerism is not that obvious, but after all, this is National Socialism, so it's obvious the left wing too. Poland was in a wedge, which creates a specific spiritual position. Or perhaps it's the other way around. Perhaps there had been something in Poland earlier that had resulted in us being the ones under the wedge. It is impossible to believe in the nobility, in a specific nobility or election of Poles right now. Poland, the Polish nation has been compromised beyond the possibility of return to the former claims. We have had a lot of rotten compromises on the way. The CIA prison being by no means not valid in the case. And then the wake-up call was the Smolensk catastrophe. It's not clear whether the politicians were already in the deal at the time, but it is absolutely obvious that it had been planned, and it is a part of this process, which is quite obvious nowadays. The global process of specieside or genocide. I believe that the philosophical movement accompanying it, the whole philosophy of transhumanism is a part of it actually, but it plays the role quite well. It reaches the elites and get under control. I believe finally we will have the situation where those previously bright, influential, powerful people will be strictly controlled in a technological way through all sorts of brain connections. How powerful a spirit is, no matter the body, I don't know actually. I believe spirits can be very powerful. I believe the spirit has the power to explode a volcano. However, these realities are so extraordinary and out of this world that it's not quite comparable to standing in front of a tornado even. Well, not as a part of it, but just being there with the tornado raging and feeling great due to the power of the element. So, I don't know. Overall, at the end of the day, one has regrets, and I have many. But then today, I felt that today I do have the sense of the duty, the duty to God, the duty to humankind. And I feel bad about my parents because I believe they have suffered from my activity. Would they have been free from the suffering if it had not been for my activity? I do not think so, because it started earlier, before I was active that way. But it might be that they have been attacked as my parents already then too. After all, I was standing out already as a child. So the people who specialize in diagnosing the potential and are and were near being correct in it must have foreseen the development of my life should certain actions be against me be being taken. I have done quite a lot of other work pro publico bono, including the work for the church, the Roman Catholic Church, earlier the work for the Church of Scientology. But obviously the people have chosen, and my condition results from their choices. These are immoral choices. Should all the people say, no, we do not agree to those plans, the plans would not be wouldn't have been put into any action, obviously. But then one can always say, well, if I don't agree, someone else will, and it will only cause a devastation of me, because probably that was these were the stakes. Or maybe not. Maybe maybe they accepted the plans for the future enthusiastically because they think along similar lines. As I mentioned today in one of my posts, Um, in the prophecies that we receive in the media, all books, um, there's not much mention, or if any, about the technology and the new world attacking our traditional world. Um, so they talk about countries, but they do not pinpoint it. And when I was shocked to find that it actually pronounced in Tom Cruise's movie, one of his movies. Well, actually, it's Oliver Stone's, but the War of the Worlds. I mentioned the factor of the creation of matrices through the movie industry. In my document, one of my documents, as the within the case Roy versus the Republic of Poland, filed with the prosecutor's office in Krakow. And he says that the Third World War will not be started by humans or something like that. I have been to the conference on transhumanism, where people related to the problem of cognitive enhancement, and one of the lectures dealt with the problem of the machine as it was already described at the beginning of the 20th century by a Russian philosopher. I do not recall his name right now. Maybe I can find it. And apart from Tom Cruise, it was Stephen Hawking who was warning about different civilizations and hostile intentions. It's quite probable that he was connected, which had a double effect. On the one hand, he had the access to the knowledge of physics beyond the access we normally have. It's not certain if it was true data though, or just a fragment of the world organized the way that reflected the laws a scientist could talk about, because I believe right now we can talk about such an idea of the world, a collection of universes, each having their own laws, at least in our neighborhood. But on the other hand, he must have had the insight into the nature of the people or beings he was connected to. The Russian Nikolai Berdyaev In 1933, he wrote about perfect machines, thanks to which a human being, will be able to rule the world, but they will no longer be human beings. Technology becoming a new faith for human beings, the faith that produces real miracles. Technology is the last love of the human being, and they are ready to change their image under the influence of the object of their love. There are three ways of being for the human being: the natural one, the organic one, cultural one, surplus over nature, the technical and machine one, separated from the world of nature. Already then he wrote that the cosmos of the ancient times and the Middle Ages, the cosmos of St. Thomas Aquinas and Dante, had vanished. He points out the danger of technology to the person, not to the spirit, unless spirituality is understood as the mind, the reason, emotionality. Christianity must be deeply spiritual, not superficial, formalistic. It has to do with the dignity and freedom of the person. There should come into being a strong philosophical anthropology, whose main thesis should cover relations between the man, the human being, and the machine, the man, the human being, and nature and the man, the human being and the cosmos. He goes as far as pointing out the disruption of the time-space correlation by the introduction of the machines, for instance a plane. I do not remember if I understand it correctly now, but when you travel from one place to another by plane, you go through the change of natural time in crossing a series of time zones. He writes that what has liberated a person must be accepted, and what has enslaved one must be rejected. So, it's already in the 30s of the last century that he was writing about. Which makes it obvious the process has been carefully prepared and carried out. After all, it's been going on for a century by now. I'm not sure if the positioning is correct. Well, right now I'm sitting in front of my laptop and making this recording, which I will post thanks to the existence of the internet. But overall, it does seem that the introduction of the machine, the very introduction of the machine, is actually the beginning of the takeover. If we think of it in cosmic terms. So, is the beginning of the end of the civilization. And I do not share the enthusiasm of technocrats, whether they are human or not. On the other hand, I think I have had some growing awareness of the machine, not being really not aware or having nothing to do with the spirit as such. So we'll see how it develops. One thing is certain: humankind have failed in moral terms. I have not. I have been fighting. I have been doing my best. I have been doing all I could possibly think of. But then the final verdict has been what it has been. Uh, no moral person would attack me or my mom. Where criticism obviously is not an attack. I mean, the standard criticism saying that I don't like this or that, or I don't like this person, or I don't know. I'm not in favor of the style, etc. But then, of course, it, it becomes mental harassment. We're no longer dealing with criticism, we're dealing with torture. And at the end of the day, after the Easter and the new developments before Easter and during Easter, that is my creation of the Polish school, I believe that I must have the satisfaction, the moral satisfaction, and that's something I will be dying with, on the one hand, but on the other hand, there's this growing awareness of the devastation, especially that my body is in the condition it is in, and I'm also worried about what's going on as far as my mom is concerned. I don't know how long I will live. I have invested so much money in my books, including the little money I have had recently, or within the last years. So certainly it would be worthwhile to read the books. I guess I will keep on creating, reflecting, probably recording too. At least one lesson more for the Polish school should come, a proper one. After all, I worked as an English teacher when I was a teacher. There are a lot of recordings in my YouTube profile. It's very good, I think, and quite comprehensive. It represents me well, indeed, apart from the photos. But it does represent the people who have abused me too, because you can see them in the photos. They have changed the look of my face completely. Even if some of it is still recognizable. I have no new recordings of the kind because my camera isn't working, it does not work. I don't know, perhaps the program has been deleted. It makes it all work, but I cannot repair it. So that would be all for now in terms of an update. When I was preparing the introductions to the lesson, I noticed that when I think of my pupils that way, I still love them. But obviously they have taken part in the crime, so all for now.